Okay, I'm back at Fort St. Mark's, going to the point. I researched some history this past week, and the post returns. I was wondering if the fort was ever given back to the Spanish, and I found out from the post returns is that apparently they were. And the U.S. had post returns here until February 1819, so it means in March 1819 the U.S. forces moved over to Fort Gadsden. And what happened after that, the U.S. manned Fort Gadsden, so really the U.S. flag has flown over Florida since Jackson came to Florida in April of 1818. And Fort Gadsden remained a military post up to 1824, with a garrison anywhere from 120 to 280 men, but they weren't always at the same spot. And here I am once again at the point. Actually, it looks like it's high tide, because last time I went out to the little point here, but now it's wet. The water's just about come up onto the corner of the fort, so almost flooding over the corner. So let's go back down the trail. And anyway, so in 1821, Jackson wrote a letter, I see, to Brevet Major Alexander Fanning, saying to pick up the Spanish garrison at St. Mark's and take them to Pensacola. So apparently the Spanish did reoccupy it. It was probably not a large garrison. Jackson said only transport the men and their Spanish property. He said that the artillery and ordnance with the fort, Jackson considered that property of the fort and to stay there, and said he wanted to keep it, but if the Spanish insist on having it, that they have to pay for and provide the transportation to remove it themselves. He's not going to do that. And so that's interesting. So the Spanish did occupy it, but in Congress they were saying, well, we'll let the Spanish have it back if they have 250 soldiers. And Jackson said that, well, I didn't even have 250 soldiers when I occupied it there, so there's probably not 250 Spanish soldiers within the Florida territory, even with St. Augustine and Pensacola combined. And we're coming back out the trail to the front of the fort. The water is very high right now. It's higher than it was last week. So Fort St. Mark's. Okay, back here at the back of the museum, some old cisterns. The museum is built on the remains of the hospital that's here. There's the front of the parking lot. And it's kind of a little too wet for them to mow the grass in the back. Not a very large area here. Since all the rain they've had, the ground is kind of smushy. The ranger on duty said it makes it a little challenging mowing the lawn. You can see by that oak tree and that cabbage palm there, straight ahead, kind of to the right. It's a puddle around that cabbage palm. And here's the kind of the rest of the open area of the park. It's a picnic grill there and a picnic table, and then the burials behind there that I showed last time. And I'm in squishy ground. That will open area there that goes to the shop area of the park where the park staff or caretaker are. And of course the cemetery for the American soldiers. Looking on the post returns, there were about every month. It was not uncommon at Fort Gadsden and at St. Mark's to have a 1 or 2 deaths and maybe about 3 or 4 desertions. I imagine that life was pretty miserable. Fanning, who was commander of the post at St. Mark's when the U.S. forces left, and then he was commanding again in 1821 when the U.S. Army came back, about June 1821, or maybe it was May. Same guy, and I kind of wondered, boy, that's kind of miserable, end up at the same place. But he was commanding also at Fort Gadsden, so he really never left the area. And this area, unhealthy, lots of mosquitoes. Imagine being in this area for 6 years as your military station. Yeah, no wonder they say he was a kind of a tough guy to get along with. He's pretty hard from being out in this remote location. Anyway, Fort St. Mark's.